Get started. I'll let some folks in as they join. But thank you all for joining us today. I'm just going to give a quick update of how we got here. So back in March, if you can remember, it was like a decade ago, we engaged NAR to do a smart growth poll. We have a great service available through NAR. We use American Strategies to take a look at, we wanted to get some ideas on growth attitudes in Fredericksburg. We have done, as many of you know, we did a great study in 2017 that Ryan worked on with Lisa Sturdivant, who's now the chief economist at VAR. And we said, hey, we've gotten such great mileage out of this research. What else can we do? And we didn't think it was quite time to update the study. That's a lot of money. It's a very wide-ranging study. And we thought that the trends that we saw then would probably still be the same now. So what else could we do? So we tapped into NAR's smart growth polling program and decided to take a look at, well, what do our folks think about from around here? I hear a lot from elected officials. They hear from constituents about the congestion, the overcrowding in schools, the roads. So sometimes when you talk to elected officials, you think people are unhappy around here. So we wanted to really get a scientific look at what people really thought. So that's what you're going to hear from. I don't want to steal any thunder from Ryan or David, but that's why we did this. And then we took that a step further in our public policy committee and said, okay, we want to look at this and then take the things that people are concerned about and actually do something about them. And it will be, I'm not going to, spoil anything by saying housing affordability is something that people are very concerned about around here. And clearly with what's going on in the market right now, we have a lot of buyers who are not able to take advantage of the market because we have such limited supply and those prices continue to increase. So I go to a lot of meetings. I know my public policy members go to meetings where people say, okay, what do the realtors think we should do? And we've got a great set of pretty generic policy recommendations, but nothing specific. So we thought it was time to say, we want to have minds greater than ours who work in this every day, take a look at what other places have done, what might work in this region, and come up with a list of recommendations for our public policy committee and our board to consider as proactive steps to take forward on housing affordability. So that's how we got where we are today. And I am so pleased to have Topside Federal Credit Union as our sponsor of this event. So I will turn it over to Fernanda and Lauren to tell us a little bit about the great services they have. So take it away, ladies.
Thank you, Kim. This is Fernanda and Lauren from Topside Federal Credit Union, formerly known as NSWC, which you're maybe familiar with. And so basically, we just wanted to say thank you very much for having us as one of your sponsors. It's been wonderful to be a part of your organization. And just as a warm reminder for those that may not be familiar with what a credit union offers over a bank, is we're not for profit. And so we're member owned. And because of that, we're able to offer a lot lower fees. And we have lower rates for home equity loans, et cetera, et cetera. And right now we are running a new loan promo where you can get a rate as low as 2.54 this weekend only. And we also have a credit card promotion and personal loans right now. With everything being so difficult with the way things are, a lot of people are tight for money. And so we are extending, some personal loans to families to be able to make, some ends meet at very low and attractive rates to be able to get everything together, whether it's, loans, a personal loan, or if it's a loan for to start a business, anything and everything. Right now, we're trying to do everything that we can to support our community. Is there anything else that we want to add, Lauren?
Sure. So that loan that you mentioned, it's our auto loan for this weekend, 3 days only. It's going to be our low rate is always currently the loan rate is starting at 2.54, but the exciting thing about it is this weekend, if you refinance or get a new auto loan, it's going to be 60 days no pay. So that's really exciting. We are always looking for ways to support the community. So we have great rates, like our Youth Saves program is 5% on the first 500 till their 20th birthday. But we're always here about support, and if that's something that you would like to be a part of, if you'd like to join the credit union, it only costs $1 to join. We have several locations in Fredericksburg, one on Route 1 next to Almonds Barbecue, and another one also on Route 1 in Massaponax across from the new Publix. We have 2 in King George as well, but if I didn't work at the credit union, I would never walk into the building. And that's because we have a really great online banking program as well as mobile app. You can do everything right there. We also are part of the All Point Network. So there's 55,000 ATMs in the United States that are without a fee. So it's really a really great savings. If you'd like to join, you can do so on our website. We have account opening right there, and it's $1 to join. So that's a little bit about us. Thank you so much for having us today.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. And I did want to, before we go on, I wanted to just pause for a moment of silence for Laura Gilchrist. She was one of the team members that I came to know and really love at Topside. And I'd be remiss if we did not pause for a moment and recognize her. For those of you who don't know, who didn't see the email, Laura unexpectedly passed away a couple of weeks ago, which is a huge loss to Topside and to our realtor family. So let's just pause for a moment of silence. Thank you all. I appreciate that. And ladies, it's great to see you. Topside is a great partner, and we've always loved having you on. So thank you for the information. And now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Ryan and David to lead us in our session. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Kim, thanks for having us, and thanks to the Fredericksburg Area Association of Realtors. So welcome to our session on housing in your region. We're glad you've joined us this afternoon. Housing is an important issue in your region. We also understand it's your business. The availability of homes for your customers to purchase and the availability of customers for your customers' homes. We'll be using several sources of information to frame our discussion, focusing mainly on the March 2020 Smart Growth Survey conducted by American Strategies on behalf of your organization. If anyone has a question, I know we've got a good group of participants, relatively small, but if you've got questions during this session, you probably know at the bottom of your screen, you've got the functions where you can raise your hand. You can also put the questions in the chat session. And I guess given the participants, if there's a question that comes up along the way, I think we can probably accommodate that. Just somehow let us know, or you can actually, if we can see you, you can raise your hand. So where do you get going? So here's our agenda today. We'll provide a short introduction on why housing matters and some demographic and housing trends that set the stage for looking at the survey results. Most of the survey information we'll discuss today is focused mainly on the housing questions. The survey had a range of questions about amenities and so on, but we're gonna really try to keep the focus on the housing part of that. You know, what are people thinking now about their housing, and what are they thinking about in the future? Then we'll discuss your thoughts about the results, and then we'll conclude with next steps, what we LSA will do and what you all will do. So LSA is me, David Castillo. I'm a city planner, and I've been working in this field of housing affordability and community development for over 25 years. I worked about a dozen years in Wake County, North Carolina, and then about 15 and a half years up here in Arlington, Virginia. Again, we're leading housing and planning efforts. My colleague Ryan Price has over 15 years experience in both public and private sectors, working with communities throughout the country on housing plans, demographic research, and community engagement. And again, we're excited to be here, excited to working with you on this project. So let us get going. I was a geography major when I was back when I was a long time ago, and so I like maps to get us going. You can see the region we're talking about today. You probably know it pretty well in Virginia, and so this is just to get us oriented. You can see to the south of you is Richmond, and to the north is the District of Columbia. So next. So housing is a critical component of the economy. It's also, you know better than most, because it's your profession. It's where we all live in a home. A full range of homes, from apartments to condominiums to townhouses and single-family homes, is needed for employers and their families working in all sectors of the area's economy. On the right side of the screen, you can see several of the larger employers that are already present. They're both public sector, private sector, some nonprofit. You've got the bottom there, you've got University of Mary Washington, so you've got a really good mix of employers that are growing in this region. So a full range of homes from apartments and condominiums is needed for them to work. Entry-level homes, townhouses, and other starter homes provide a foundation from which families can remain in the areas they grow, and hopefully they'll move up and purchase a home if they start out renting here. So here's on the right side, there's this quote is called "The Huge Game of Musical Chairs." The housing market can be thought of as a game of musical chairs. Do you remember playing that as a kid? People with more money and better information find it easier to get homes than people with less money and less information. Especially in hot or expensive housing markets, there are more people seeking relatively fewer homes. It's great that housing prices rise. Strong housing markets are good, but they can be challenging for people with less money. We think a healthy housing market has increasing prices, but also a supply of homes that accommodates families of all income ranges, from affordable and market rate apartments to starter homes and luxury homes. One policy response is to try and add to the housing stock for those with less funds, but also higher end homes for people already in more modest and starter homes as they move on as their needs change. So next, we show some examples of what success looks like to create this pipeline. On the top side, you can see some affordable apartments. This is the Valor Apartments in Fredericksburg. The Earthcraft certified and looks like a really nice place to go around. I know they've got walkable spaces and parks between and shopping nearby. The homes below are at Embry Mill. It's a large development of mixed homes in Stafford County. So let's look at the demand driving the housing supply. The next several slides summarize demographic and housing trends. We use the Fredericksburg Regional Housing Study and current US Census American Community Survey data to compile this summary. And the data is from the 5-year period of 2013 to 2018. First, the population is growing, and I think you probably know that better than us. It's fastest in Fredericksburg at 10%, in Stafford County at 9%, moderately in King George at 7%, and a bit slower in Spotsylvania, Caroline, and Orange counties, 6%, 5%, and 5%. Next, homeowners are increasing everywhere in the region, ranging from a high percentage of 15% in King George County to a low of 3% in Fredericksburg, and you can see the other 3 counties in between. Homeowners are increasing everywhere in the region, ranging from the high percentage growth of 15% in King George County to a low of 3% in Fredericksburg. Oh, talking about ownership here, the incomes. Homeowners generally have higher incomes than renters. Owner incomes range from $73,000 a year in Caroline County, you can see that green bar at the top, to $124,000 in Stafford County. The percentage of renters is increasing in Fredericksburg and Stafford and Spotsylvania counties, plus 11%, 13%, and 4% respectively. But it's decreasing in King George, Caroline, and Orange counties, -5%, -4%, and -1% respectively. Overall, owner households had more than 2 times the income as renters. So as we might imagine, owners are better off than renters. And this is better off as defined by the degree families are cost burdened by monthly housing expenses. A cost burdened family is one that spends more than 30% of their income on housing expenses, like a mortgage or rent, plus utilities and other expenses. About 1 in 5 owners, 22% is cost burdened, while nearly half, about 1 in 2 renters, is cost burdened. So the summary here is that you've got a growing population where owners are better off than renters. Now let's talk about the home supply. We're looking at the supply in 2 ways, the current supply of homes and the future demand for homes. So first, there's a greater increase in the overall number of homes in the north, and you can see Stafford County grew by 8% and Fredericksburg by 6%. The other counties grew, but at a slower percentage rate. King George 5%, Spotsylvania by 4%, and Caroline and Orange counties both by 3%. Second, the growth of single-family homes is rising fastest in King and Stafford counties. King George and Stafford counties, 12% and 9%. Single-family home growth is occurring elsewhere, but at a slower rate, 5% in Fredericksburg, 4% in Orange and Spotsylvania counties, and 1% in Caroline County. The growth of multifamily homes shows, I think, an interesting pattern. Increases in Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, and Stafford moving south to north at 20%, 8%, and 6%, but decreases in Orange, Caroline, and King George County, about -1%, -7%, and -37%. So now let's talk about the future supply of homes. This is the number of homes needed over the next 10 years. Here, the demand for all homes is anticipated to be greater in the counties than in Fredericksburg. And you can see the bar charts going from top to bottom with Spotsylvania, Stafford, King George, and Caroline counties, and then Fredericksburg at the bottom. Fredericksburg is projected to need about 1,400 homes, and you can see the split is about 950 to 450 for 950 for single-family homes, 450 for rents. Surrounding county, the range about 2,400 homes in Caroline County, 3,100 homes in King George County, 9,200 homes in Stafford County. I heard an echo. 11,200 homes in Spotsylvania counties. Separating the anticipated future home demand between single-family and multifamily, the survey really shows the following. You can see how the bars are split. There's more multifamily demand projected for Fredericksburg than single-family homes, but the counties are flipped. There's more demand for single-family homes than multifamily homes. If you total up the bars, it's about 21,000 single-family homes needed, and about 6,600 multifamily homes are needed. I think I'll repeat that. About 21,000 single-family homes over the next 10 years, and about 6,600 apartments over the next 10 years. If you do some simple math, and I can do simple math, it's about 2,000 homes, single-family homes, detached homes per year, and about 600 to 700 multifamily units per year. So we also think, in addition to the local economy, there's two factors that could influence future home demand here. In the short term, we've got COVID-19, and I guess the question here is, as telework seems to be more the norm, is that going to influence your growth? More people are going to be able to work from home. And then secondly, in the long term, you've got a pretty interesting location. You're between the DC metro region to the north and Richmond to the south, and how those economies grow, people that may want to live further out, how does that impact your market? So you're living in a really strategic location. Your organization and region are well situated to capture growth, as well as a result of the economic conditions in both Richmond and the DC metro region. These could include spin-offs, more employment, and even more people could come to your region. I think, is there anything that surprises you, since we've got some time, anything that surprises you about what we've talked about so far? Looking here in the chat box. Nope. Thanks, Kim. People shouldn't be shy. If you want to raise your hand, go ahead. So now we're pivoting from a high-level demographic and housing trends and getting into the main focus of today's presentation, the key consumer and housing-related information contained in the March 2020 survey. Over the next dozen or so slides, we're going to cover the results of that survey. Our focus today, again, is on the housing information provided by the survey to better understand your market, its perspective, and hopefully to help inform your future activities. The survey consisted of phone interviews conducted in early March this year. 425 adults were reached living in Fredericksburg or Spotsylvania and Stafford counties. Quotas were established for each of the three jurisdictions to reflect the demographic distribution there. So we've got some really good news for you if you haven't read the survey. People like living here. They're glad they came, and most want to stay. Hopefully, it's likely that more people will also want to come and make this their home. So people moved here for several reasons. There were 12 reasons listed in the survey, but we're going to highlight 3 here. They were asked to rank each of the reasons on a 5-point scale, where 4 is an important reason and 5 is a very important reason. So here are the top 3. You can see them on the left of your screen. Community safety. 92% of the people ranked it either important or very important. They believe this is a safe place to live, to raise their families, to relax and play when not at work, to shop and run errands without fear. Secondly, doctors and hospitals, 81%. 81% of the people ranked it as either very important or important. They believe this is a place where they can get well if they become ill or get injured. The availability of hospitals and doctors' offices, as well as other health-related amenities, make this a place attractive for people who have options. These amenities will also help retain people once they get here and helping them age in the community. Third, and this is my favorite, housing affordability. 80% of the people could find a home that they could afford. Finding an apartment, townhome, or single-family home that matched their income was an important factor for them moving here. You get a job, and then you get a home. Great employment options in this region will continue to attract more people. If this region continues to have a wide range of housing options, future growth can be accommodated. As amenities grow with the community, people and their families will want to stay here for the long term. If telework, as we mentioned earlier, becomes more the norm, even more people could be attracted to this region, especially if the homes are in the price range they want. We'll come back to this point a little bit later. So furthermore, if you look at the left side of the slide to the bottom, there are two interesting facts, other survey results we think are related to the factors above. And again, remember, pretty much everybody who was surveyed likes or is satisfied to live here. First, satisfaction of living in the region increases with age. About 55% of the 18 to 34-year-olds were satisfied. About 57%, a little bit more, of the 35 to 49-year-olds are very satisfied. 63%, which is even higher, of the 50 to 64-year-olds are very satisfied. And a whopping 75% of those age 65 plus were very satisfied. So all age categories, when asked if they're either satisfied or very satisfied, range from a low of 88%, this is for the 18 to 34-year-olds, to a high of 95% the 65-year-olds. Secondly, satisfaction of living in the region is stronger for homeowners and renters. Both groups are satisfied, 86% of the renters and 4% of the homeowners. However, 66% of the homeowners were very satisfied, while 47% of the renters were very satisfied. Another survey question asked people if they were to purchase or rent a home today, what they would value more, the quality of the home or the quality of the neighborhood surrounding the home. And this is the last bullet on the slide here. 64% valued community quality rather than home quality, and 34% valued home quality over community quality. So community quality was valued by most people in the middle two age categories, the 35 to 49-year-olds and the 50 to 64-year-olds. I wonder if this reflects the middle-aged people that are more active in their communities, whether schools or so on. So once people move here, let's see what they said they like about their community. When measured on a 5-point scale, where 4 is satisfied and 5 is very satisfied, here are the top 4 reasons on your screen. Hospitals and doctors' offices, 79% of the people were either satisfied or very satisfied. Community safety, 76% of the people were either satisfied or very satisfied. Places of worship, either 73% of the people were either satisfied or very satisfied. And then shops and restaurants, 72% of the people were either satisfied or very satisfied. Other reasons that people said they liked their community included privacy for neighbors, the number of parks, playgrounds, and trails nearby, and the quality of the public schools. These are all components of the community that support people in their homes. The survey respondents said that their community is a great place to live, as we mentioned, but that said, they also gave some feedback on areas of improvement. So improvement here is defined as where people said they were less satisfied about. It's measured in the survey by a less than 50% rating of being either satisfied or very satisfied. And so here are the top 4 areas for improvement, and hopefully these aren't a surprise to anybody. First one, this is my favorite, the level of property taxes or local taxes. About 28%, or only 3 in 10 people, are satisfied. 11% of the people said they're very satisfied. You don't have to raise your hand if you're one of those. I'm not crazy about my own taxes. Secondly, the affordability of housing, including apartments, townhomes, and homes. About 35% of the people were satisfied. Number 3, the condition of sidewalks. About 36%, or 4 in 10 people, were satisfied. And the last one here is the length of commutes. About 46%, or nearly half, were satisfied with their commute either to work or school.
David, can I interject for one quick second and ask a question and then make a comment?
Sure.
So from a question perspective, that 28% are satisfied, is that normal? I mean, when we first looked at this, the researchers told me, hey, most people don't like paying taxes, so they never say, yes, I'm thrilled with my taxes. Does that go with what you would think?
I mean, I think so. It's just, to be honest with you, this is the first time I've seen a question directly about taxes, but I mean, I would imagine most people prefer to pay, if they have a choice, most people would prefer to pay fewer taxes rather than more taxes. And I think that's just, I've been, at least in my sort of working experience, whether it's, here in Washington, D.C. or in Arlington or Northern Virginia or in Raleigh, North Carolina, and in both Raleigh, but also the smaller towns, I think again, I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm actually, surprised that 11% were people that were very satisfied. So I think that's a good thing, but no, I'm not surprised.
My other question I wanted to ask you and then throw out to the group too is when I first got these results back, I was actually quite shocked by the fact that 46% of people were happy with the length of their commute. I expected this to be an overwhelming 80% of people hate their commute in this area. So I didn't think that the commute question was as bad as you might think from the media, from our elected officials. I didn't know if anybody else had a similar reaction to the commutes issue.
Kim, what I was thinking is that commute may be because a lot of people catch VRE or van pools or buses. So even though the commute may be long, they're not driving it themselves. So I would have loved to have had an extra question right there asking, are these people who make that entire commute by themselves, or is this like where they use VRE as some kind of public transportation?
No, and I think it's a good question. I know it's, the other thing about the timing of the survey is this was done, I think, March 5th and 6th. I guess, you'd wonder if you asked that question today, excuse me, would it change? And I don't know if you all are seeing, fewer people commuting because of COVID-19, that would switch. And I guess that's the, kind of getting back to one of the points we made earlier about what, might influence you all going forward, at least in the short term, is what's going to happen because of COVID-19. And then even, hopefully there'll be a vaccine, there'll be a solution to that. But even after that happens, I just wonder if there will be fewer people commuting because more people will be teleworking because they can, and we're all trying to figure it out.
David, I think that I know a lot of people that commute. I used to be one of them. And practically everybody I know works up the road, and the majority of them are working from home, have been working from home, and will be working from home. I don't think there's one of them who said, as soon as they allow us to go back to work, I know that I'm going to have to make the commute. A lot of companies government companies have already talked to some of their employees about continuing working virtually because it must be working out pretty well.
Right, and then again, it kind of gets to the question, and we'll talk a little bit about this too more, but it really is, if people have that ability to telework, does that open up their housing choices? And again, for you all in the Fredericksburg region, whether it's in the city of Fredericksburg or in the surrounding counties, is this going to open up the housing market a little bit more, A, put more pressure, but A, the opportunity of having more supply and kind of more people living here.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? And then we can continue on. So I wanted to, I guess the point Ryan, if you want to go back to this slide, if I want to go back, because kept picking on the housing piece a little bit. I guess this is a question I had about the 35%, were not very satisfied or satisfied. So they got here, and I'm just wondering if the people that took the survey, if they're, why we think they're less than satisfied. Are they reacting to rising prices? Are they worried about being able to find their next home if they want to move up to a bigger home? Are they worried about their kids once their kids leave? How will their kids be able to afford to live here? Are they thinking about getting an aging parent or relative to live close? And so I'm just wondering, kind of I guess that's a question that I'm, again, it's not something I've seen a lot, but it's something we think about for the future. All right, so I think one of the things that we think the survey does offer some perspectives on this, and you can see on the slide here, it's really the satisfaction with housing affordability. And you look to the right and you can see the bar graph, and it's by age. And so the survey offers this perspective. It found that satisfaction with housing affordability really increases with age. On a 5-point scale, where 1 is very dissatisfied and 5 being very satisfied, here's the results by age category. And you can see it increases as you get older. 2.7% is the score for 18 to 34-year-olds. A little bit higher, 3.1%, so you're getting kind of in the sort of neutral plus for the 35 to 49-year-olds. 3.2, a little bit higher for the 50 to 64-year-olds, and then 3.4% for the 65-year-olds. So it seems that, may suggest that, again, as the respondents got older, they had a higher level, they had a higher income, higher level of housing satisfaction. Is that because their income's raising? I don't know. We'll probably get more into that a little bit more. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the survey results to see who the most satisfied people are. Again, remember, most everybody that took the survey are glad they moved here. About 93% of all survey respondents were either somewhat satisfied or very satisfied. So first, they tend to be older. 95% of the 65-plus-year-old respondents were either somewhat satisfied or very satisfied. They tend to be white. About 94% of the survey respondents were either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied. Non-white respondents were about 88%. They're homeowners, and this is something I think we want to focus on a little bit more later. About 94% of the homeowners are somewhat satisfied or very satisfied, compared to 86% of the renters. They're slightly more prevalent in the suburban and rural areas than the urban areas of Fredericksburg. So it's 92% in the county versus 89% in Fredericksburg. But still, all are pretty well satisfied. So let's zoom into what I think is hopefully the most fun part of this survey. It's talk about the homes people want. First, as you probably know, and the survey data confirms it, most people already own their own home. Nearly 8 in 10, or 79% of the survey respondents. About 15% of the survey respondents rent, and 6% of respondents live with their family or friends. Of the survey respondents who own, nearly all of them want to continue to own, and that's 96%. That's the number at the bottom of your screen on the kind of left of the two figures. About 6% of the of that group of responders, about 8 of 10 prefer detached single-family homes. Of survey responders who rent, 7 out of 10 responders, only 28% would want to continue to rent. So there's a complementary survey finding resulted from the combination of two questions that demonstrate the following. Overall, 85% of survey respondents want a detached home. So 70% of those already live in a detached home, and you can see that on the green part below the 85, and 15% live in an attached home, but they want to live in a detached home. 11% of the survey respondents want to live in an attached home. 6%, that's the narrow brown bar, already live in an attached home, and 5% live in a detached home, but they want an attached home. So let's break these preferences down a bit and look at the potential opportunities for you. These are the largest mismatches where survey respondents are living in attached but want to live in detached. First, they're respondents with lower to moderate incomes, the people with less than $100,000 per year. Secondly, they're respondents who are renters. About 38% of the renter respondents want to live in a detached home. They are respondents who live in Fredericksburg. About 33% of the respondents want to live in a detached home. And they're non-white respondents. About 25% of the respondents want a detached home. So here's the main point. Most people, young, old, white, non-white, rural, suburban, urban, lower incomes, middle incomes, higher incomes, they all want to own a home of their own, and most of them want a detached home. And that's illustrated by the picture of the right. I was joking about Ryan where essentially this is all roads lead to home ownership. And so hopefully we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So let's continue to explore what people told us about their future home choice, defined in the survey as a move in the next several years. More than half the people surveyed, about 56%, want to continue to live where they are right now, remembering that nearly 8 of 10 already own their own home. The rest of those surveyed, less than half, 42%, want to move to a new home or apartment. So there's two ways to look at these groups. First, the percentage of people wanting to remain in their home increases with age. More than half, 54%, of the people aged between 18 and 34 years, excuse me, years old want to move, and that's the number at the upper right side. While only 22%, about 2 in 10 who are over 65-year-olds want to move. And then the people in the two middle age categories want to move, about 52% and 56%. Second, looking at the difference between respondents who are owners and respondents who are renters, about 2 out of 3 owners want to stay right where they are. They want to keep watering that grass. A bit more of 2 out of 3 renters want to move. 68% want to move. Finally, by geography, the more urban the respondent, the more likely they want to move, and the more rural the respondent, the more likely they want to stay put. Nearly 2 out of 3 rural responders want to stay put. That's the 65% with the house with a really, really big yard. Over half the suburban responders want to stay put, about 55%. And as you can see at the bottom, less than half of the city respondents, 44% want to stay put. So really, this is your market opportunity. So here's another interesting part of the survey results that look into the future and again, may provide some clues to inform our work together. According to survey responders who were asked where they saw housing shortages, this is too few homes. Here are their opinions. First, over 55% of the respondents said there's too few homes with people with low incomes or low wage workers. Half, about 50% of the respondents said there's too few homes for younger people and those looking to start their careers. Third, about half or 43% of the respondents said there's too few homes for older people with special needs or who are looking to downside. Interestingly, one group of respondents, those aged 50 to 64%, felt there was a shortage in both categories. And we wonder if these are both parents that are looking for homes and then thinking about their next move. Finally, 42% of the respondents said there's a shortage of homes for families with moderate incomes. So the biggest need, according to people who took the survey, is housing for low-income people and families looking for homes as they start their career. So now that we've seen the kind of homes people think they're missing, we're going to see what people think they said are obstacles to home ownership. So survey respondents were asked to identify obstacles to achieving home ownership. 7 obstacles were listed, and we're going to list the top 5 that 70% of the more respondents identified as either a huge obstacle or a medium obstacle. So first on the list, the top, low wages. Second, the lack of funds for a down payment and closing cost, and the consumer debt. These top the list at 76%, 75%, and 75% respectively. So those are the top 3. Second, the next level, we're tied at 70% each. This is student debt, college debt, and the inability to find a home that they could afford. So we highlight the 2 of these as potential areas for your organization to consider as you look at influencing public policy on housing and affordability of that housing. So we've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. Why housing matters in your region. We've summarized the demographic and housing trends to set the stage. We provide a focused look at the 2020 survey of residents and their housing preference. So let's summarize what we think are the main takeaways. First of all, your region's growing. We think this will create a continuing demand for more homes across the income spectrum. Secondly, according to survey results, most of the people want to own a detached home. If they can find a home they can afford, they will purchase it. If they cannot find a home to purchase, they rent, and they will likely to want to buy a home if they can find it and then they can afford it. So if they cannot find a home to purchase, will they move elsewhere? This is something that we'll have to ponder. Third, barriers to ownership. The survey identified several obstacles, including ones that your organization can affect. And 4 is really potential policy areas, and particularly in these 2 areas. One is helping solve the finance issues, and I'm glad we've got a couple lenders with us today to talk us through some of that. And secondly, helping solve the housing supply shortages. So this is really mainly the end of this part of the conversation, but we've got some questions to hopefully lead the conversation for the rest of the, most of the rest of the time. So you all are home ownership experts. You heard what the survey respondents said is what they see the obstacles of home ownership. And I'm wondering, which of these obstacles do you see the biggest? Just to remind you, they mentioned low wages, low incomes and low wages, regular consumer debt, student or college debt, the lack of money for down payment and closing costs, the lack of supply of people, lack of home supply for people who may have low debt, reasonable stable income and funds, but they can't find the house. So I guess of those 4 or 5 obstacles, or which of these do you see as in your day-to-day work, either as a lender or as a realtor?
And if y'all are shy, I'm gonna call on you specifically.
Kim, I've got a little input.
I knew I could count on Clay.
Yeah, I actually think thanks for all this information. It's a lot of it's what we all know, but it's good to see it and presented this way. Thank you for that. I think it's senior housing. I think it's somewhere for. I have plenty of clients who are either they've owned their home for 20 to 40 years, and there's nowhere for them to go to stay in the area, to be around their grandkids, to stay with their doctors, to stay at their church. That's affordable for them in terms of like being able to downsize. That, back to your musical chair analogy, it's like if we could get those seniors an affordable place to go that's not $400,000, maybe something like in the $200,000 range, affordable senior housing, then they'd be able to move out of the house that's in a great location that a young family want to use as their first time home. So it's almost like if we could get the local governments or whatever to give some incentives to developers for those affordable senior housing, we'd create all these little pockets of I think like Ferry Farm where I live. It's built in the 60s, 50s and 60s. There are still folks there who are original owners who don't have anywhere to go. They can't afford to sell their home at some crazy amount to then downsize to a $400,000 senior community. So I feel like
What's the going rate on, say, something in Virginia Heritage or that one off of Route 3? What are those new construction rates?
I'd say so Regency at Chancellorsville, maybe like in the 400 range. I'd say the same at Virginia Heritage.
So these are not $200,000 and you cannot get in for.
No, I think the only thing in the 200s is Summer Lake, and those go in hours. People wait years to get in there.
Well,
but I think it's related.
Another thing that's affecting our market too right now, it goes back to the inventory problem, is there's a bit of gridlock going on right now because people they don't want to sell their house because they can't get another house because it's so competitive if they got to sell their house. I've even got somebody right now that I'm getting ready to put their house in the market that can't rent a house. They can't even find a rental that they're going with, so they're holding up right now. So housing inventory is way too tight.
So Randy's saying that Falls Run is still in the 250s, but right, that's only one.
Again, it's a pretty high, condo fees and HOA fees as well.
So if you've got someone who's been in their home for a long time but is on a fixed income, they might not be able to afford even if the house price is lower, it's those recurring fees that might preclude them from being able to afford in a place like that.
Right, and they might have refinanced 3 times to pay for 3 kids to go to college in the same, so so they stay and they kind of make do in their current home.
Well, thanks for that. And then a second part, I guess, so there's it sounds like that's a gap in supply of the kind of lower priced, I don't know what you wouldn't call it congregate living, but I know I've seen places, they're less in the really urbanized areas, but more so in the, where you get a little bit further out where you've got a range of homes. They could be condominiums or townhouses. And then in that same complex, you've got, getting in towards the apartments and into assisted living and so on. But you need a lot of land for that type of complex.
Clay, I had a follow-up question for you, or anyone out there. You mentioned the kind of this demand for senior housing and clients that are interested in downsizing. Do you have a sense, as we looked at the survey responses, it seemed like an overwhelming majority of the survey respondents preferred detached housing. Do you have a sense, based on your clients or what you've been hearing on the ground, are the downsizers open to different types of housing, whether it be multifamily or attached bungalows, or are they mainly looking for smaller detached housing?
They're looking for low maintenance, and I think if they're able to trade off, mowing an acre of grass and have maybe a duplex, I think there's that kind of that balance, but they're just looking for something less to maintain, but also in the same zip code,
Yeah, right.
and they're just not finding it.
Right, still a nice place, but yeah, they don't have to mow the lawn, and maybe it's a, either sort of, I'll say townhouse, row house, some situation where they've got somebody else doing the maintenance, whether it's an HOA or.
Yeah, I just feel like this would be a solution. Yes, it might take some land to produce this, an additional senior type of area. However, it probably would be easier than trying to just let new construction just kind of catch up, which those are starting in the 400s, creating that demand. I think it could be easier, I feel like, to create because the thing is, you want to create those, you want to get those folks out of the homes that were in great locations 40 years ago. Builders are building houses on lots that are just crazy with alternative septic and wherever they can fit it, but some of these houses are in really good locations that younger buyers, first-time home buyers, would love to be in because it's close to downtown. It's close to wherever it needs to be. So I just see that kind of pent up inventory that just has nowhere to. It can't free itself.
Right. If the people can't move, then the younger folks can't get in to these homes.
And then they're overspending on a new build.
The gridlock.
And then I think, Chip, you mentioned the other part, I guess. What do you give us a little bit more about the bottleneck that you mentioned?
Well, it's basically just a matter of, it just goes back to inventory over and over again. But say our market could even be more robust if there were more things for people to buy. If they could go out there, sell their house and find another place to buy. But right now, if you've got a contingency on your sale, your contract's not going to go through when there are multiple offers going right away on a property as soon as it hits the market. And again, I've got some people going to a fallback position where we'll just rent until we can find the house. And there are sometimes multiple applications, even just on the rental houses.
Okay.
So it's kind of a bit of gridlock that's hit the market a bit too. People that would like to move and take action on today's rates.
I was just going to say too that I see some serious contradictions in the market when I'm in research. There wasn't long ago, I don't know if you remember, we shared it from the city of Fredericksburg, that Fredericksburg was named by some magazine as having some of the best place for retirement on the East Coast or something, because we had lots of affordable senior options. But I wonder, and I see this too with just regular homes. Yeah. If you have the income to afford, there are things here that are nice and plentiful. This seems to me to come down to, in many ways, an income issue. That if you are a senior with a salary or a retirement stream that can afford a $400,000 place, you've got a bunch of options. I'm just surprised to see that we just were named that. Bill Freeling shared it from the city that, look at this is great, we're a great place to retire, but not if you're already here and income constrained.
Right. It's also perspective. You said the East Coast. As the East Coast goes, we may be fairly affordable compared to DC or up north or something like that.
Compared to DC, right? Same with our regular housing prices. We look at them and we're like, oh my God, my friends in Northern Virginia laugh that I'm freaking out about $400,000 because the median price up there is, upwards of $6,000 or whatever it is. So
I'm finding traditionally people that are retiring and looking to move, they definitely don't want to move up in the house price at retirement. So they're looking to be at or below what the current market value. You don't see them moving up value-wise, and that seems to be a little bit of a disconnect also.
Yeah, no, I think you think about people, at least in this particular age category that are retiring, that they may have had a really good salary, but then when they retire, they may have a decent pension and Social Security, but that's less than what they were making when they were on working full time. So that's a kind of a whole, as you say, people want to downsize, but they actually, if anything, they want to spend less on their housing rather than more on their housing, or the same.
Correct.
Yeah.
The ones who can afford to buy B without selling A are the ones who are being successful right now.
Right.
If they can't, then they're staying put because they're afraid to be homeless.
Right. So any more gaps in supply, or is it either gaps or supply, or kind of obstacles to ownership that you've seen?
One of the things I've seen, this is Susie, I'm sorry I'm darkened. I have actually middle of 3 deals right now where the folks buying, they're looking for housing that they can have co-housing with their one parent or both parents, but a lot of it's been one parent, the mom or dad of one of the half of the couple, and that's been a challenge because they all want to be similar to where they live now, which is in the city of Fredericksburg, but they want something within, similar area. And so finding housing with main level master bedrooms or having the ability to put an addition on, that's becoming a little more common for me as people who are looking for that style house. And downtown Fredericksburg, it's harder to find that since there's not a lot of houses with a lot of main level master bedrooms. But I'm seeing it as it's really is becoming something I've had to spend a lot of time on trying to find housing for people who want that.
Right, and then that one level, it's if they want to go from let's say a 2-story house with a basement, and then like you say the 1-level house, it usually suggests that there's it's got to be, if they want the same amount of space, it's got to take up more space on the land. So it's a kind of how to figure that out. Are there gaps in supply?
Just a question, I think one of your slides showed that multifamily in Spotsylvania was up like 20% or something over the past 5 years. Is that? I feel like we're we're just seeing tons and tons of apartments being built over the past I've been doing this since 2014, and I feel like just in the past 3 years, so many have been built. Do you think that's going to slow? I'm trying to think back to where. There we go. Well. I think the next one it shows single family versus the apartments and multifamily. I'm just wondering have we hit any kind of plateau on the multifamily, or do you any thoughts there?
Yeah, I guess it's a market issue, and it's sort of at least from the development perspective, it takes what 2, 3, 4 years for an apartment complex to get built. So I think that developers have to be aware of where they think the market's going, so where it is today and where they think it's going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future, because they're going to have to get it entitled, get it approved, and then go through the whole development process. So I think it's it just depends on what's going on with the rental market right now. If there are vacancies and people are giving discounts, that's one area. But if apartments are still being rented up, then it seems like that's, and people, developers can get financing for it. I think they'll continue to build it if there's land, and again, as long as through the development process, it's not too long or too lengthy. I know back to the slide that had the bar charts of the 5 counties in Fredericksburg. You can see that. There's the multifamily is 900 units, but that's over a 10-year period. So that's essentially, that's an apartment complex per year. So it doesn't, and again, I'll just, perhaps from an urban perspective, that doesn't seem like a lot. Whereas if you go up to, I'm trying to think where else where the multifamily is high. You're
very welcome.
It's really in the Spotsylvania and Stafford counties, which again, this is over a 10-year period. So this suggests that they would add a couple hundred units per year, and I don't know if that feels like a lot or it feels like a little.
Do you all see people going to apartments that aren't able to buy? Do you see a greater conversion from buyers who maybe have lost out and end up just renting? because there is so much supply in the rental market right now, especially in Spotsylvania and Stafford. I mean, we've got some new, buildings up there too.
I mean, I just see buyers, some of my buyers just out of necessity just staying renting because of, they're just seeing these prices, just in this year they've seen, like, they were starting at 350 and now they see just junk out there at 375, so I think people just kind of stay in the comfort zone because they've got, the rental secured. They just go month to month and just kind of just in perpetuity.
Well, I think that also speaks to sort of what we were talking about with the kind of the supply gaps, and there being an oversaturation of maybe luxury housing and not enough kind of starter homes or kind of move up homes, as people kind of cycle through the housing stock. And so I think that because that lack of kind of first time home buyer housing stock, that maybe some of the seniors that want to downsize are still occupying. Because of that, I think a lot of people are renting a bit longer than they originally had planned to.
Well, another part of that too, one of the impediments is going to be for the first-time buyers is the need for, if they have a need for closing costs, which isn't uncommon for first-time buyers, and that's getting harder and harder to get those contracts with closing costs through versus others that are not asking for them. So that creates a big problem for them.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Chip. That's you kind of pointed out this kind of bottleneck in supply that we've just talked about, and then again it gets into there's a supply part of this, and then to what degree is there a financing issue or financing issues, and that's why I was kind of glad we've got a lender on board, because I know at least in some of the work it's there are programs for down payment closing costs that the state of Virginia has. And again, this is probably something that we'll, in our future work, we'll get to, is really looking at what how the counties in Fredericksburg, how are they able to tap into any of the sort of down payment and assistance programs. And then on the lender side, I know I'm glad we got somebody from the credit union there. Those types of institutions seem to be the ones that can have a little bit more flexibility on some of the programs. And so I think that's, I guess, for us to do is really look at some of these best practices in terms of what is the 2020, 2025 sort of help to try and get more people into their first homes, especially those that have a decent income. And then again, if we can sort of address both on the supply side and also on the demand side with the financing, we might be able to kind of try to overcome some of these bottlenecks.
Yeah, I know in a lot of the discussions we've had, because affordable housing discussions are going on in many different places in our nonprofits and at the local government level, really the city's the only one that has a municipal program of any note. And I think Shay has worked with it before. I know she had to step off, but the problem with the city is that while they have a program, the city is the most challenging market to find housing in for folks that are income constrained. We used to use the program a lot more back in, right after the crash. It was through the neighborhood stabilization program. And there were lots of foreclosures to be had and, lots of opportunities then, but you just don't see that anymore. So while they still do a few of them a year, it's just nibbling at the fringes. I mean, it doesn't make a dent in the actual need.
Right. Yep. And that's, again, I don't know this. So you've got the city, and then the state of Virginia. It used to be called the Virginia Housing Development Authority. I think they just rebranded, renamed. I think now they're Virginia Housing, but that's, the one agency that, again, we worked with a lot in Arlington, and I think they're pretty active. Again, I don't know what they're, in terms of, this is part of the research that we'll be looking at, is really what their closing costs and down payment assistance programs are to figure that kind of part out, or help try to figure that part out.
Yeah, and I think for us, I mean, Chip, you guys, chime in, but I think that VA and rural development are a big part of our more affordable portfolio as well. Especially VA, it's huge. But I wonder, and I've heard just anecdotally, in this market, which I know is temporary, but in this market, I mean, we're seeing, and I've heard some agents talk about, even VA is less appealing when you've got multiple offers. VA can often be sticklers on lots of things in the home. Sellers are going to pick the cleaner one sometimes. So even then with assistance, I think some of those programs are losing out. in this crazy market. Hopefully that will change. It will calm down a little bit, but.
No, and that's a good point. Like you say, it's if you're a seller and you've got a choice between, you know, two equal buyers and one's more complicated on the financing than the other, it's, you know, it's you don't have to you don't have to think about that, or you know, it's just you're going to go with the easier sale, and there's nothing that's just you know, for better or worse. And so I know that at least on the government side, you know, we're always trying to work about how do we operate as quickly as, you know, as the private sector does, and that was always a challenge. But I think at least, you know, again, in sort of the work that we're gonna do is really trying to, you know, make sure that you're tapping into, or your customers are tapping into the resources that are out there as best they can. But I think it's really the supply is something that we've got to, you know, that's got to be a major piece of what we look at as well.
Robin, you looked like you wanted to say something. Did you want to, or are you good? Oh, okay. Well, I know that we're right at 4 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So is there anything we didn't get to? David or Ryan, any comments, any information you didn't get?
I don't think so. I guess it was, you know, it was a question we you know, we kind of went through these two questions that were more focused on you all, but I guess, is there anything that you all heard today that you either hadn't heard before or was, I guess, surprising to you, or was this pretty much confirm kind of what you see in your day-to-day work?
Is this accessible, this report?
Yes. So the report, our report that we did, it has all of the things that were covered. You can read even more in depth, is on the research tab of the FAR website. And we also did a one-pager that we pulled highlights. So I'll send, when I send my email, just confirming out to everybody saying thank you for coming and sending the NSWC, excuse me, the topside information that we promised, I'll send the links to that because it does have some great information that you can pull from.
Yeah, so I think really what we've got is, you know, on the left side here, we've got our next steps. And so we're going to work with you all to create this growth and housing action plan. We talked a little bit about putting together this case study toolbox, which again, I think this conversation's helped us in terms of, you know, we'll look at this toolbox in a pretty holistic way, but I think we've got a couple focal points in terms of some of the supply bottlenecks, gaps that have been, but you've talked about, and plus we're in the survey. And then on the financing side, really, what are some of these obstacles to home ownership? So I think that'll be the something that we're really going to focus with on the case study toolbox. And we'll be working with you all and working with Kim, and we're kind of excited about the next steps here. So thanks for having us.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm excited about the next steps. I can't wait to get this information, and we'll bring it out to the membership again once the board and the Public Policy Committee have a chance to chew on it. So thank you all for your time, and
thanks, Kim.
Yeah, y'all enjoy this beautiful day.
Yeah.
Ready to get outside.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.